Hey everybody, welcome to D&D Optimized, the show where each episode we take a deep dive into one single character build for Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and we do our best to optimize it to give you the greatest numerical advantage for the chosen role of that particular character build. If you enjoy theory crafting and number crunching about D&D character creation, or you're looking for ideas for your next character or ways to make your existing D&D character a little more powerful, this is the show for you. So welcome, thanks for being here, appreciate having you. My name is Colby, and just wanted to give another thanks to everybody for all the subscribes and likes and comments and things lately. We're up to, I think, 225 subscribers last I looked, which was a big jump from the week before. So that's exciting. Thank you. Please continue to share and spread the word. I appreciate it, and the D&D community is just awesome. You guys are fantastic, and it's been nothing but pleasure to interact with all of you. So thank you. I asked in the last episode about interest level in doing builds other than sustained damage, which is what the vast majority of the episodes have been about so far. As most of you know. And I did, the only feedback I received was, yes, please do more than just sustain damage. Another tank build, maybe, healing, etc., etc. So I wanted to do another tank build this week because I've only done one, and it's not particularly useful if you don't have anything to compare it to, right? So episode 3, I believe it was, I did the Bear Totem Barbarian, which was really kind of a tanky control build. For those who don't know, tank meaning, hard to kill. Hard to kill, and also, maybe defensive-minded, trying to sort of defend your allies from taking damage, getting hurt, etc. That's what we mean by tank. So most of the time when we, at least when I think of a tank, I don't think of a raging barbarian in a loincloth or maybe medium armor, right, and a two-handed weapon out there frothing at the mouth. I think of heavy armor, plate mail, shield and sword with a helmet on, just being virtually indestructible. And so I wanted to go for something along those lines this time, something a little more traditional, a traditional tank, and see how it compared. So, in D&D, really your only options, for the most part, for heavy armor wearing, sword and shield type archetype is a fighter and a paladin, right? Those are the two kind of classic archetypes here for this particular type of character. Fighters are fantastic, particularly because of all of the additional feats and ability score increases that they get access to compared to other classes that can really help them boost their stats, get great feats and things like that. But I think in this case, for the purposes of being as hard to kill as possible, and also maybe support and heal and things, the paladin just has the edge, primarily because of spells that they can get, especially if you do a little multi-class dip, which we're going to do just a little bit. The spells that you can get access to easily are just great for adding some defense, some armor class especially to you, making you that much harder to hit. Eldritch Knights get spells in the fighter line, but they get fewer of them. It takes longer to get where you want to get, and the types of spells that you get access to aren't necessarily what we're looking for, so it doesn't work as well. Paladins just have great healing abilities, buffing abilities for their allies, and so it just fit a little bit better in that archetype that I was trying to do here with this tank build. Fighters are great and maybe a little more offensive-minded, I think, generally, than paladins, unless you're smiting a bunch. So, with all of that said, I present episode 12, the Paladin tank, or the Tankadin, as we shall fondly call him. So let's jump into the build. At level 1, your race, I'm going to recommend Variant Human, as I do 90% of the time, it seems. I'm hoping that Tasha's Cauldron of Everything that comes out next month as of recording. We'll change that and make that free feat thing available to more races. But we need a couple, well, we want a couple of big feats, one in particular early on that's just going to be super strong. And so Variant Human for the free feat is what we're going to recommend. But there are plenty of other options that could be really strong. You see a lot of Goliaths and a lot of half-orcs. And, you know, if your DM allows the Eberron book, whatever it's called, Eberron Rising, Eberron something, it can be pretty steampunky. It's kind of sci-fi, almost a little sci-fi in your fantasy. I'm not a huge fan of it personally. I know I'm gonna have to do an artificer build one of these times, and I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm gonna do it because I love you guys, and I'm getting some requests for artificer builds. But anyway, if you can do Eberron, the Warforged is a great option for race here, because you get a +1 AC, and that's awesome. And they're cool, they look fun. So anyway, but we're going to go Variant Human, and the free feat that you pick up is the Heavy Armor Master feat. Heavy Armor Master reduces, anytime you take damage from non-magical piercing, bludgeoning, or slashing, so in other words, weapon attacks for the most part, right? It reduces the damage that you take by 3, which is really big, especially early on. It doesn't scale super well, but you know what? It helps throughout the game, and especially early, it's big. 3 damage per attack. It could reduce an attack that you take to 0, right? And also, just FYI, well, all of the numbers that we look at are kind of assuming non-magical in most cases. And so, just so you know. But obviously, it's not quite as strong if you're just taking 100% magic damage. Anyway. Abilities, your ability scores, you're going to want to start with a 15 strength +1 from your feat. The Heavy Armor Master feat gives you a +1 to strength. Then a 15 constitution, and take a +1 from your racial feature, and then a 15 charisma +1 from your racial feature. And it's not going to leave you with a lot else if you're doing point buy. So you're going to have pretty low scores otherwise. But starting with 3 16s is awesome. And Paladins really want all 3 of those abilities. So that feels really nice. For your equipment, obviously you're going to get chainmail. You want a shield, and just take, you know, whatever one-handed martial weapon you prefer. On Paladins, I think I like a warhammer myself. But a longsword too, it kind of gives that knight in shining armor. But you could do a battle axe. You could do whatever you want. But take something that does a D8 and is one-handed. Let's see. Paladins get the well-known and well-loved Lay on Hands feature at this level, which really adds to your tankiness because it lets you heal, including heal yourself, right? But it lets you do, I think, 5 hit points of healing per level of Paladin, per long rest, and you can split that up however you want. It's really great. You can also use it to cure diseases and poison and things too, which is nice. Let's see. At level 2, you get a fighting style, and you're going to want to take the defense fighting style. It's going to give you a +1 to your armor class. The protection fighting style is also great. It makes you a little less tanky, but it lets you impose disadvantage on an enemy who's attacking an ally when that ally is within 5 feet of you. That's great. That's really strong, actually, and really fits nicely in the whole tank, the purpose of the tank, right, to protect their allies. Maybe even better than the defense. We're crunching numbers for survivability here, so I took the defensive fighting style, but feel free to go, you know, protection if that's kind of more up your alley. What else? You get spells, Paladin spells, starting at level 2, and I'm going to recommend that you take Shield of Faith at a minimum. Shield of Faith is a concentration spell, and while you're concentrating on it, it's going to give you a +2 to your armor class, which you love. And so, you know, with that spell up, chainmail, shield, defensive fighting style and the Shield of Faith spell, you are at a 21 armor class at level 2, and that's with chainmail. So that's really good. You're going to be really hard to hit right out of the gate, and where usually the early game is very dangerous for most characters, it's not going to be that dangerous for you. At level 3, you get a Paladin feature, Divine Health, which makes you immune to disease. That's great. That much, one less thing to be able to damage you. And then you also get to choose a Sacred Oath. I'm going to recommend Oath of the Crown for a few reasons. You get a free Compelled Duel spell, which is nice. It's probably the closest thing that D&D has to a taunt. You don't force somebody to attack you, but you give them disadvantage if they attack anyone else but you. So that's even better than the barbarian, right? Which gives the enemies advantage on attacking him. The only thing better than giving an enemies advantage to attack you, if you're trying to draw their fire, is giving them disadvantage to attack anybody else. So that's great, and definitely you want to use Compelled Duel. Their channel divinity options are nice. Paladins, like clerics, get a channel divinity feature, which once per short rest lets you channel divinity and do something cool. And it's going to change based on your oath. And the Oath of the Crown gets 2 options. One is just a straight up heal, and it's fantastic. Turn the Tide. And it can do a group heal as long as you or whoever you're trying to heal is below half health. So that's fantastic. And then you get Champion Challenge. Champion Challenge could be awesome, or it could be not particularly useful, depending on if you go, in my opinion, rules as written or rules as intended. So let's just talk about it for a second. This is the description. As a bonus action, you issue a challenge that compels other creatures to do battle with you. That's important. Remember that. Then it says, each creature of your choice that you can see, it goes on to describe the sort of specifics of it. Each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, a creature can't willingly move more than 30 feet away from you. So the description of it is that you're compelling other creatures to do battle with you. The nuts and bolts of it is, if they fail their save, they can't move away from you. Talk with your dungeon master about this, right? And make sure that you're both clear on how this is going to work in game. If it were me, I think I would say, if your intention is to do a big group taunt and it's your channel divinity, which you don't get to use that often, right? Yeah, I'm going to generally, if they fail their save, make these creatures attack you. That could backfire on you and get you killed. So watch out. But it seems to me that rules as written the intention might have been a little more rules as intended might have been a little more than what they ended up rules as written there. Anyway, figure it out. It can be good either way, even if it's just hey, people can't move away from you. That could stop them from running. It could maybe prevent them from getting to an ally, depending on where you and your ally are situated. So anyway, really like the Oath of the Crown. It also brings some more great tanky and support features as you level, which we'll talk about. At level 4, you get an ability score increase or feat. I'm going to recommend taking Constitution, because we are going for survivability after all, so that's nice to give you some more hit points. And then at level 5, you get an extra attack, always welcome, and your second level spells and spell slots. Second level spells don't do a ton for our tankiness. There's a couple of okay options. Protection from poison, which can be good if you're fighting enemies that do poison damage. And Lesser Restoration gives you a nice kind of help your friends cure type spell, which is great. At level 6, we are going to take 1 level and 1 level only of Sorcerer. yes, we're multi-classing. The Sorcerer Paladin, or Sorkadin, as it is commonly called, is a well-known and well-loved multi-class. I've used it before in the Assasserer build. They're often put together in order to give the Paladin big smite damage, right? More spell slots, higher level spell slots, so that you can smite stuff and do big damage. We're really just here for one thing, one and a half, the shield spell. Sorcerers have access to shield. They are a charisma-based spellcaster. You have a high charisma. It's very easy to get there. And the way that shield works is you cast it as a reaction. It's a level 1 spell. As a reaction, when you get hit by an attack, it will bump your AC by 5, potentially causing you to not get hit by that attack. And it will last, your AC will be at that +5 level until your next turn, the beginning of your next turn. So you're effectively bumping your armor class by 5, as, you know, at will. And that's incredibly strong. So that's what we're here for. Another decent spell you could pick up is Absorb Elements. So Absorb Elements will basically just, if it's fire, acid, cold, lightning, thunder, maybe, poison, I don't know, damage, spell damage, basically, it will absorb a d6 per spell level of that damage. So it's another way to kind of not take damage if you're not getting hit with a weapon, right? So a couple of nice reaction-based, defensive-based spells that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get access to as a paladin. Also, as a sorcerer, at level 1 sorcerer, you get a sorceress origin. I would probably take Divine Soul. It seems to make the most sense, I think, thematically for a paladin. You get a Favorite of the Gods feature, which is nice. It lets you, if you fail a save or miss an attack, you get to add a 2d4 roll to that failed save or missed attack, potentially letting you make the save. And obviously, if we're looking for survivability, that's nice. It's going to let you make an occasional saving throw that you would have failed otherwise. But listen, if you have this great idea for a character that worships the god of thunder or something, and you want to go the storm sorceress origin, go for it. I would recommend Divine Soul. It's not a huge deal there. Damage report. For those who watched the Bear Totem Barbarian episode, you'll recall that I kind of wanted to come up with some new stats that we could use as a sort of control or baseline to kind of compare other tanky builds to one another. The DTPR, or damage taken per round, to kind of calculate how much damage is this character going to receive on average, and RTD, or rounds to die. So at that damage per round, how long is it going to take for them to die? Those are kind of a couple of stats that just let us get a feel for how tanky is this character, how hard are they to kill. Go ahead and watch that episode if you want a more in-depth explanation of my reasoning, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, for a control, at each level, I just kind of picked some monsters to say, okay, we're going to do a boss fight. We're going to do a just kind of regular run-of-the-mill fight, both of which are a sort of medium difficulty as per the difficulty encounter builder, assuming a party of 4. And so we get a boss fight, we get a regular fight, to kind of compare, okay, well, how does this tank build stack up at level 6 against that tank build at level 6? So, sorry for the long preamble, but at level 6, assuming you still just have Chainmail with your shield spell activated and your Divine Shield, or Shield of Faith, active, you're at a 26 armor class. Against so the boss fight is a young white dragon against a young white dragon. That dragon is only going to do 5 damage per round, 5 DTPR, right? And it's going to take you 10 rounds to die at that rate. Now, again, we're not including any sort of special attacks, legendary actions, bonus bonus actions, any sort of special things, breath weapons in this case, you know, anything like that. It's really just, you know, this monster is hitting you. Okay, so a bite and 2 claws is what the dragon's doing, and that's what we're using for our control. Against just an average regular encounter, we're using 4 berserkers. They would do 3 damage per round to you. You'd take 3 DTPR, and it would take you 17 rounds to die. And then just for fun, against 10 kobolds, they would do 2 damage per round to you. And it would take you 25 rounds to die. I'm rounding these numbers. Oftentimes there are decimals in there. And yes, I realize you're going to run out of spell slots before 25 rounds against 10 kobolds, right? So no, you're not necessarily going to have a 26 armor class the entire fight. The purpose of these numbers is just to give us, you know, sort of a baseline. It just serves as a function to let us know at this rate of damage, how long would it take my character to die, right? You know, that said, you're not going to need to cast shield a lot of the time against these enemies. They're going to miss, even because you're going to have a 21 armor class, right, which is really high. So no, you won't have access to shield all the time. I know that. I understand. But I think that the numbers serve a good purpose anyway. Anyway, really strong, tanky numbers. It's going to take these things forever to kill you, even if they're just focusing all of their attention on you and trying to kill you. It turns out that a high armor class and a -3 per hit, non-magical anyway, is really strong, particularly at early levels. It will get less strong as we go, but it definitely stays useful throughout. All right, at level 7, we're going back to Paladin, and we're going Paladin the rest of the way. You get, so Paladin 6, you get your aura of protection, your first aura. It's awesome. Paladin auras are the best. You and every ally within 10 feet get to add your charisma modifier to their saves, which is just great for increased survivability. At level 8, Paladin 7, you get a Oath of the Crown feature, Divine Allegiance. This is nice. So this is a great tank feature, right? Basically, when someone within 5 feet of you, they have to be 5 feet of you, a friend takes damage, you can, as a reaction, take damage for them. And this, by the way, is another reason why I think it's best to go defensive, or the defense fighting style as opposed to protection, because you're using your reactions a lot for things as a paladin, including this Divine Allegiance feature. So if they take damage, you can take the damage instead. That's nice. It's a bummer that you can't instead force the enemy to attack you, because you're probably going to have a much higher armor class than your ally, and you know, you're just going to have to take the damage anyway. So you get penalized for their squishiness. They should know better. But anyway, it's still great, and a great way to be a tank and to help out your allies. At level 9, Paladin 8, you get another ability score increase, which I would say take Constitution, max it out, and now you're at a 20 Constitution, which is great. You have a lot of hit points. You get 3rd level Paladin spells as well. The one that I definitely make sure you get is Aura of Vitality, another great aura. It's concentration, but it just gives some nice healing every round to you or a friend. And you can do that healing as a bonus action, which is great. Of course, you'd have to drop your concentration to do it, so you lower your armor class by 2, but still, if you need healing, it's nice. You also get to revivify, so you can bring your friends back from the dead, as long as you act quickly, because you only have a minute from when they die. Damage report at level 9. So I'm assuming at this point you've managed to find yourself some plate mail, some plate armor. So you're gonna have an armor class that's 2 higher than previously. I don't think that's too big of an ask. By level 9, It's expensive, but it's not uncommon, right? So just save your money, borrow some money from your friends if you need to. So with your shield active, your shield spell, and your shield of faith, you are at a 28 AC, and you have 101 hit points. So boss fight at level 9 is versus a young blue dragon, and that young blue dragon, against that young blue dragon, your damage taken per round is 5. All of 5 damage per round. You will survive for 21 rounds at that rate. Versus 4 hobgoblin captains for our kind of average encounter. 4 hobgoblin captains, it's the same. 5 damage taken per round, 21 rounds to die. And versus 10 kobolds, it's still 2. It's going to be 2 forever. They only hit you if they crit. And you will live at that rate for 51 rounds. So, sorry, kobolds. All right, at level 11, Paladin 10, you pick up Aura of Courage, which makes you and anyone within your aura immune to being frightened. That's fantastic. At level 12, Paladin 11, you get Improved Divine Smite, which lets you add a D8, an extra D8 of radiant damage when you land a weapon attack. Never say no to extra damage. At level 13, Paladin 12, you get another ability score increase or feat. Since we're capped on Constitution, I would recommend going Toughness, the Toughness feat. It's going to give you an extra 2 hit points per level, and that continues to scale throughout. So that's for you right now, 26 more hit points, very nice. You also get level 4 spells. There are some nice aura of healing and aura of like curing options, as well as protection from death itself. Check out the spells, they're cool. Damage report. Boss fight is an adult white dragon here, and you will be taking 9 damage per round from an adult white dragon, and at that rate you will survive for 19 rounds to death. Still so tanky against for an average typical medium difficulty encounter, 5 helmed horrors, and they will only do 6 damage per round to you, and you'll survive for 29 rounds at that rate. And versus 10 kobolds, 2 damage per round, 86 rounds to die. At level 15, Paladin level 14, you get Cleansing Touch as a Paladin feature, which lets you end 1 spell effect on yourself or an ally. Super nice. Again, all about both surviving and helping, right? That's what the Paladin does so very well with this build. Level 16, Paladin level 15, you get an Oath of the Crown feature called Unyielding Spirit. It gives you advantage on your saving throws to be paralyzed or stunned. So again, you're just that much harder to kill. You've got advantage and resistance and buffs and bonuses on just about anything that the enemy can throw at you at this point, as well as an incredibly high armor class. Level 17, Paladin 16, you get another ability score increase or feat. Knock yourself out. If you're looking for more weapon damage, go Strength. If you're looking for better spell effects and bonuses to your auras and things like that, which is what I would probably recommend, go Charisma. Although, give serious consideration to Shield Master feat. Basically, it lets you kind of use your shield to shove enemies, but more importantly, essentially lets you take less damage or no damage even when you are having to make a dex save against an area effect, like a dragon's breath attack, for example. You're kind of using your shield, maybe hiding behind your shield to reduce or eliminate the damage, which is fantastic. You get level 5 spells. So that's the max level for paladins, right? And rangers, those kind of martial / spellcaster classes. Level 5 is the highest level of spell. I would definitely go Circle of Power. It's a concentration spell like all these aura spells are, but it gives everyone advantage on saving throws versus magic. And if they would have taken half damage when they make their save, they take 0 damage. So strong. And really shores up, both ends for you as far as defensive goes. You've already got a high armor class, giving yourself resistances and advantages on saves and taking no damage if you make your save. These kinds of abilities just make you super, super strong against all damage types, which is fabulous. So, level 17, final damage report. Your boss fight is against the classic red dragon, the adult red dragon. You have 28 armor class still, with shield and shield of faith, but 223 hit points. You are a butterball of HP, and so you're going to take 18 damage per round in this fight on average, and it will take this adult red dragon 13 rounds to kill you at that rate. For an average run-of-the-mill fight, 5 earth elementals, you're going to take 10 damage per round, and it'll take 5 earth elementals 23 rounds to die for you there. And against 10 little kobolds, they will still do 2 damage to you, and it will take them 112 rounds to kill you. So take a nap, get yourself something to eat. By the way, at this level, not using any of your spell slots for smite, you would be doing 17 damage per round to an adult red dragon. An adult red dragon has 256 hit points, so it would take you 15 rounds to kill it. It was only going to take them 13. So advantage adult red dragon, but not by a lot. Now, granted, I'm not using legendary actions or layer actions or breath attacks, but I'm also not assuming that you have any magic items, right? Magical weapons, magical armor. And I'm not using lay on hands to heal myself or any of these things. So, advantage adult red dragon, but I think you got a fighting chance to go solo. It would be fun to try it out. So, final thoughts. Look, comparing this build to the Bear Totem Barbarian is not a true apples to apples comparison, right? When we're looking at who's the better tank. The Tankadin is surprisingly, for me, was a lot tougher to kill. I didn't think he would be, to be honest. I undervalued high armor class. Most people would say at high levels your armor class becomes obsolete because monsters have such a high plus to hit that it just kind of stops mattering. The reality is, when you crunch the numbers, on average, and especially when you get a 28 AC versus, I think my Bear Totem Barbarian had like a 17 or something, it makes a big difference, right? And that little -3 to every hit, it adds up. So yeah, very, very hard to kill, despite the fact that the Bear Totem Barbarian has resistance to almost all damage. They just get hit so much more often. Now, that said, the strengths of the Bear Totem Barbarian are resistance to everything, like I've mentioned, tons of hit points. And arguably, they do a better job, like I've mentioned, of filling the role of the tank that is get the enemies to attack you, right? Because they are still a big threat and very easy to hit. So they're just a juicy target that the enemy would be more likely to prioritize, right? So, all of that said, the Bear Totem Barbarian is going to do more damage on average. They're going to kind of be better at controlling the battlefield a little bit with their Sentinel and their Polearm Master feats. Long reach, locking enemies down, potentially protecting the back line in that way. Whereas the Tankadin is just a lot harder to kill, but also brings a lot of great heals and buffs and ways to kind of bolster and help their allies in ways that the Barbarian really just can't. If you are up against a lot of enemies that do tons of magic damage and only magic damage, the survivability gets a little closer. But even then, the Tankadin really is just a lot more durable. So anyway, both are a lot of fun to play. You know, as a Tankadin, you may be more durable, but you're probably going to have a harder time getting the DM to attack you, or I mean the monsters. DMs are friends, not food. That doesn't really work. Anyway, Tankadin, so much fun. Both classes, just a ton of fun, really. Just really depends on, you know, are you interested in being pretty hard to kill, but attacking in a frothing, foaming rage, and also locking down the battlefield, and doing some pretty good damage while you're at it? Or are you all about just being really hard to kill, really, really hard to kill, and also healing and buffing your allies and taking damage for them, and doing it all in righteous glory? Either way, you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So that's the episode today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. As always, please do subscribe, like, comment. You know, I've really enjoyed on the YouTube version anyway of the show. Lots of comments. Feel free to further the discussion. If you have ideas for improving it, questions, comments, verbal abuse, you know, throw it out there. And of course, you can reach us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and you can always email me at dndoptimized@gmail.com. Especially if you have a build that you'd like me to take a look at, give me as much detail as you can on what you have in mind for that build as far as class and your goals and all, and maybe even spells that you want to base it around, whatever the case may be. Send it to me, get me as much detail as you can, and I will do my best to optimize it for you. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.